Hi yogi friends, Cathy here. So glad you're here to practice with me today. And today's practice is going to be focused on supporting poses for pelvic floor function and strength and flexibility. And it's important for all of us, no matter our age, to just be aware of poses that will help to support pelvic floor health. Male or female, it always comes into play, especially as we age, to keep those muscles supple and flexible as well as strong. So settle in to your easy seat here. Go ahead and close the eyes. Everything we do today after our warm-ups will be focused on pelvic floor supportive poses. So as you settle in here, take a sigh out. Take notice of your spine. Lengthen up out of the pelvis through the back of the neck, and right out through the crown of the head. Maybe even tuck the chin just slightly. Allow the shoulders to relax, and allow the weight of the bum and the legs and the ankles and the feet to really sink down into your mat. Really grounding here. Notice the warmth of your hands resting on your legs. And come to settle on the breath, noticing the depth and pacing of each inhale and each exhale. And go ahead and bring one hand to the lower belly if you like, just so you can really feel as you expand the lower abdomen on the inhale and lift up in the chest slightly, maybe up through the collarbone, filling up the lungs, and then relaxing that collarbone and drawing the navel to the spine on the exhale, so you can really press the exhale fully out of the lungs. Let's inhale once more, big full belly breath, and a full and complete exhale. One more time, big full belly breath. Inhaling, filling up, and then exhaling, allowing all of that stale air and carbon dioxide to exit the body. Let's take another big full inhale, and on the exhale, we'll chant Om to open our practice. And that chant's just a reminder to us of that life force that resides within each and every one of us and connects us all to one another and every other living being. If you'd like to set an intention for your practice today, now's a good time to just draw that intention to the mind, and you can simply have the intention of just being present here to complete this practice. You've come to the mat. Congratulations on taking time for yourself to take care of your well-being. And then when you feel ready, go ahead and gently open the eyes. And we'll lift the arms up over the shoulders, lengthening through the fingertips, lengthening through the crown of the head, and allowing the shoulders to relax down from the ears. So there's some space there. And just really hold here in this position, maintaining the breath, feeling the lengthening in the back and the side and the front body. And on an exhale, turn the torso to twist to one side. We'll lower the hands so that one rests on the leg and one rests right behind the hip. Inhale as you lengthen tall in the spine. Exhale as you look toward that back shoulder. And just hold here for a moment, making sure the muscles of the torso are holding you in place, that you're not pressing yourself with the hands. That can sometimes cause us to overextend. On an inhale, let's raise the arms back up tall. And hold here again, another breath cycle right here in the center. And then on an exhale, we'll twist, bringing the arms down. Again, resting one hand on the leg in front and one hand right behind the hip and back, and just glancing over that back shoulder. And then we'll raise the arms back up on an inhale. And from here, we're going to bring the arms all the way down as if we're pressing against something. And then we'll lift them up, really engaging the whole arm as if we're pressing something down on the exhale. And as if we're lifting something up with the palms on the inhale. And then we'll lower hands back down. Let's drop the chin to the chest and hold there just a moment. Then we'll rock one ear over toward one shoulder and just hold there for a moment. Then we'll rock the chin back to the chest, rock the opposite ear to the opposite shoulder, and notice if this feels very different on one side of the body. And then just continue rocking from one shoulder to the other, bringing the chin to the chest in between each rock of the neck to the side. You might find one side of the neck is much more open than the other. That's pretty typical. And if you find a spot where you need to hold there or maybe rock the head forward and back a bit, go ahead and do that just to loosen things up. And then next time that the chin is at the chest, let's raise the head right back up to a neutral position. And let's bring one knee to face the ceiling. Sole of the foot is on the floor. Keeping a straight spine here. We don't want to curve forward. We want to sit tall. Bring the hands right behind the knee on the lower thigh and clasp the fingers. And we're just going to extend that leg out in front and then bend it back. And you might lift the leg up higher or leave it down low, especially if lifting high causes you to curve the spine forward. We don't want to have a curvature in the back. We just want to be moving from the hip and the knee here. Just warming up the legs a little bit. And then we'll lower that foot down, lower that leg back down, and we'll do the same move on the other side. Sole of the foot on your mat, hands clasped behind the knee, sit tall, and then lift that foot and lower. And you might notice that this is much easier on one side of the body than the other. Again, that's pretty normal. We tend to be dominant on one side of the body, so not unusual at all. All right, let's bring that leg down and let's come into our tabletop position on hands and knees. We want to get a good foundation here. Spread the fingertips nice and wide, gripping into the fingers. Make the hands like little spiders. And the knees are right under the hips. Feet are right behind the knees. Draw the navel up and lengthen through the spine, out through the crown of the head. So we have a strong foundation to begin. And then on an inhale, we'll drop the belly down, raise the crown and the tail toward the ceiling. And on an exhale, curve the spine up toward the ceiling, drop the crown and the tailbone toward the floor. Dropping the belly on the inhale and exhaling, curving the spine. Dropping the belly on the inhale and curving into a cat on the exhale. Just keep that cat-cow movement going for a few cycles. Let's do one more cow and one more cat. And then we'll sink back into a child's pose. Bring the hips toward the feet. You can open the knees a little wider if that feels good. And you can leave the arms extended out in front of the shoulders. Or you can bring the arms to rest on either side of the legs so that the the hands approach the feet. If the forehead doesn't come all the way to the floor, just bring a block or a blanket beneath the forehead. And it might feel good here to rock the forehead a little from side to side. Just massaging the forehead a little bit. And let's come back up to our tabletop. We're going to curl the toes under. And we're going to come up into a downward facing dog. So we've lifted the hips up. Go ahead and pedal the feet here and lengthen from crown to tail, keeping those spider grips in the fingers. And moving through the whole foot. So really come all the way up onto the toes as you're pedaling and really pressing the heels down. So we get a lot of opening in the whole foot here. And then when you feel ready, you can bring the feet to a still position, keeping a flat back here, really pressing the heels toward the floor, toward the mat. We're not worried about if they're touching the mat or not. We're just feeling that length in the back of the legs. And then from here, we're going to walk the feet forward toward the hands and come into a forward fold. So just allow gravity to do the work here. Let gravity pull the head toward the feet. You might sway a little from side to side. As a matter of fact, let's grasp the opposite elbow with the opposite hand. And go ahead and take your sway all the way around to the side so that one elbow comes near that calf or that shin on the side of that leg. And then we'll swing all the way around to the other side so the elbow comes close to the calf on the other side. So we're just swinging here from side to side. You might notice that gives you some extra opening in the low back and the hips as well. We take this sway a little bit more exaggerated than just the gentle sway. Let's do one more on each side. And then we will come to a still position right here in the center. Go ahead and release the hands. We're going to roll up to our mountain pose from here. Standing tall, allowing the shoulders to relax away from the ears. I'm going to turn to face you. So in your mountain, go ahead and engage the thighs, engage the pelvic floor, engage the abdomen, bringing the belly button in and then up. And you might want to allow the palms to face forward. And think of having a tall spine with the tailbone pointing toward the floor and the crown lifting toward the ceiling. And we're just going to hold here for a moment, really feeling your strength. Notice if the weight is evenly distributed between the feet. You might even rock a little bit forward on the toes, back onto the heels, maybe even a little from side to side. Just want to make sure weight is evenly distributed. And from here, let's raise the hands up overhead, just coming into prayer position here. Lengthen up through the spine and allow the shoulders to relax down. Press the hips out to one side and we'll bend the upper body toward the opposite side and just hold here for a moment. And then we'll come back through center and go to the opposite side. And then we'll come back to center. Go ahead and lower the arms. We're going to grab a block. I did say I didn't think we'd use these today. If you don't happen to have a block, you could use a book. You could use even a rolled up towel. Something that is firm, though, that will give you a little resistance. We're going to put it just above the knees. And if you don't have a prop that you can use today, just observe this. And you can still do the same movement. It just won't be as much resistance. So the feet are right beneath the hips. And we're going to squeeze the block between the thighs, and then as if we could lift it up, we want to squeeze and lift. So we're engaging the thighs and the pelvic floor muscles and maybe even the glutes slightly. And then we'll just release those muscles. You'll notice the block isn't really moving much at all, but we will feel the action of attempting to move it by engaging all these muscles. So squeeze in with the thighs against the block, engage the abdomen, pelvic floor, and glutes, and try to lift that block slightly. And then we'll release. We'll do this twice more. Engage thighs against the block. And hey, if it gets a little uncomfortable, go ahead and move it around. Go ahead and press against the block. Lift up with the pelvic floor Draw the abdomen in and just lift up with the thighs. And then we'll release. And then we'll do one more. Squeezing the block, engaging the abdomen and pelvic floor, engaging the glutes, lifting up on that block. And then we'll release. And after that, we're going to come into a wide-legged stance. So feet are going to be wider than the hips. I'm going to turn one foot out 90 degrees and make sure that front heel's in line with the back arch. Turn those back toes in just slightly. We want all the weight concentrated in the outer edge. By turning the toes in, that helps make that happen. And we're going to come into a warrior two, so go ahead and bend that front knee. And if you get into this stance and you need more or less space, go ahead and walk that back foot in or out slightly. We want this front knee to be over the front ankle as much as possible. So stand tall here and strong. Really feel the strength of the whole body. This is a whole body pose. You have the head right over the heart. The heart's right over the pelvic bowl in a straight line. You have a straight line of energy from fingertips on one side to fingertips on the other. The legs are really actively engaged here. And you also have this turn out of the hip. That's where the pelvic floor muscles are being worked. And you want to keep this knee over the ankle and the knee also pointing toward the middle toes. A lot going on here, a lot to think about. And at some point you can feel relaxed into the pose. You've taken care of checking off all of the things you want to check on. And just allow yourself to relax into it. Feel your strength here. Go ahead and bend that front arm. Bring the forearm to rest right above the kneecap without pressing a lot of weight there. It's just resting. And then we'll lengthen this back arm up over the shoulder. Keeping this hip on top as open as we can. It sometimes wants to roll forward. We like to keep it open if possible. And then from here we'll come back to our warrior two. And then we'll straighten that front leg, give it a bit of a rest, and come into a reverse warrior, lifting that front arm up over the shoulder and allowing this back arm to come rest on the thigh. And then we'll bring the arms to warrior two and all the way down. And we'll switch sides. Turning out the opposite foot, make sure feet are in good alignment. Make sure those back toes are turned in just a bit. Coming into your warrior two. Front knee over front ankle. And again, feeling your strength and power here. Feeling the energy that you are using and creating. Notice if the head is over the heart and the heart over the pelvic bowl again. And maybe even draw the navel in just a bit to support the low back and to provide you with a little more height. You'll notice when you draw that navel in, sometimes it lifts up as well in the torso. Keep the spine nice and long. Let's go ahead and bend that front arm, coming into our side angle here, resting the forearm above the kneecap, extending the back arm over the shoulder, and holding here for a moment. Sometimes you may want to even lengthen that top arm over toward the front edge, but only if that doesn't create any tension in the neck. Let's come back to our warrior two, straighten that front leg, and reverse warrior, lifting the front arm up over the shoulder, back arm down to rest on the thigh. And then we'll lower that arm, coming into a tall mountain by walking the feet back together once again. Take a look down at the feet and just walk the feet a little bit in place. We used a lot of energy there in the feet to keep our stance nice and strong. From here, we're going to come into a chair pose. So go ahead and bring the hands to prayer position. I'll turn sideways so you can see this a little bit better. And we're going to begin by taking a little bit of a bow forward and pressing the bum backwards. And then we're going to begin to bend the knees and pull that navel in and up again. Lengthen out through the crown of the head and just hold here, keeping the knees pressing toward the center. We don't want to bring them to touch, but we don't want them to bow out to the sides, keeping them above the ankles as much as possible. And we'll lift up just an inch and then lower down just an inch, giving a real workout here to the glutes and the thighs. And again, strengthening the pelvic floor muscles. And then we'll go ahead and stand all the way up tall. Shake the legs out. That can sometimes feel pretty intense on the legs. Let's go ahead and shake them out, and then we'll come to bring the feet a little wider than hip distance and turn the toes out this time. Bring the hands to prayer once again. And then we're going to start to bend the knees over those middle toes. And we're going to come into a squat. And if the hips are tight, you may only come down a tiny bit, and that's okay. If the hips are a little more open, you may start to come down further, and you'll reach a point where it becomes a challenge. You might even be able to come all the way down, bringing the hands to the floor. And if so, you might want to rock from one foot to the other. So when you're on the heel of one foot, you'll be on the ball of the toe and the toes of the opposite foot. Just kind of a little froggy move here. Back and forth. That can help to open up the hips a bit too. And you can take one of two options here. You might grab that block or some other cushion, bolster, something like that, and bring it beneath sits bones to come into your low squat here. That's a perfectly fine option. You could even use two blocks if that was helpful. If you're in a higher squat, don't worry about that at all. If you're down here lower and you want to remove the block and see how that feels, go ahead and do that. Pressing the elbows into the knees if you're down here low. And then we'll use the hands, bring them around behind our back, and come all the way down to seated. Now, if you're up higher, just go ahead and come down in a comfortable way for you to come to the floor. From here, we're going to just lengthen the legs out toward the short edge of our mat. Lengthen arms up tall. Lengthen up tall through the spine. And go ahead and bend forward, doing a seated forward fold. And when you reach the edge of that bend, go ahead and bring the hands down to your mat to rest there on your mat. And if the fingers reach the toes and you want to give them a tiny little tug, you'll feel a little additional opening in the backs of the legs. Let's lengthen arms up overhead and lower the arms down. And then scoot the bum forward and come to lie all the way down on your mat. And once you get here, take one full breath cycle on your back. And then on an exhale, go ahead and roll over onto your tummy. We'll do one tummy pose here because this is also a good one for the muscles that we're trying to give attention to today. Lower the forehead to your mat. Lengthen the arms on either side of the body so the hands are resting near the hips or the thighs. And bring the legs to touch one another so the feet can touch. The thighs are close together. And we're going to engage the glutes, the pelvic floor, and the backs of the thighs and the inner thighs. And lift the legs, really pressing the pubic bone and the pelvis down into the floor to lift the legs behind us. And then we can also lift the chest using the muscles of the back. And lift the arms slightly, also coming into a locust shalabhasana here. Remembering to breathe. And then we'll lower everything back down. And go ahead and roll back over onto your back. From here, we're going to come into a reclined twist. So go ahead, first let's put the soles of the feet flat on your mat, knees are pointed toward the ceiling. Feel the weight on the sacrum there, that space just about an inch or two above the tailbone. That can sometimes be a nice release to just have some weight resting in that place. A lot of muscles come together there from the pelvic floor and attach in that sacral area. This can give a bit of a release there. Let's go ahead and lengthen the left leg out straight toward the front of our mat. Bring the right knee into the chest. Give it a little hug toward the chest. Maybe even rock it a little side to side. And then the next time that you have it rocking toward the middle of the body, we're just going to go ahead and bring that knee across the body and bring the knee over toward the floor. On the left side, you can also extend the right arm out from the right shoulder. And if it feels good in the neck and the back, you could turn the face over toward that extended right palm. Go ahead and rest the right shoulder on the floor. If that means you have to come back out of the twist a little bit, go ahead and do that. I'm going to keep that right shoulder down. And if this is at all pinchy in the back, go ahead and press the sole of the right foot toward the bottom of your mat a little bit. I'll open up that low back area just slightly. Remembering to breathe here. And then we'll go ahead and roll over onto the back. Lengthen that right leg down. Draw that left knee up toward the chest. Give it a little squeeze, and then begin a little bit of rocking from side to side. And the next time that you rock that knee toward the center of the body, we'll bring it all the way across. So the left knee comes over toward the right hand side of the room, extending the left arm out from the left shoulder and turning the head to face the outstretched left palm. Just relaxing here into this position. And then from here, we'll roll back over onto our backs. Bring both knees toward the chest. Give them a little squeeze. And then open the knees about as wide as the shoulders. And bring the feet so the soles of the feet are pointing toward the ceiling. And if your body allows, you might grab the backs of the knees here and just pull the knees toward the body. Think of lengthening that tailbone toward the front edge of your mat too in this happy baby position. Another option is to grab the ankles. And you can even rock a little from side to side here in your happy baby. Another option is to use the pointer finger and the middle finger to wrap around the big toe. And another option is to grab the outside edges of the feet. But we really want to have a lot of length from the crown to the tail, and that tailbone needs to be pointed toward the front edge of your mat. We have a tendency to roll up to bring the feet up, so we don't want that happening. If that means that we need to grab on the legs so that we can point the tailbone toward the front of the mat, then go ahead and do that. Just adjust to whatever your body needs today. And then from here, we'll bring the knees back together. We're going to bring the soles of the feet to the mat and then open the knees wide and bring the soles of the feet together so they touch one another. Bottoms of the feet are right against one another. And if this is at all uncomfortable on the hips, you can always bring a block or a pillow beneath the knees on either side to give them a little more support. If you'd like, you can bring the hands and make a diamond shape right above or on top of the lower abdomen. Relax the shoulders down into your mat. Relax the elbows and the upper arms down into your mat. Relax the sacrum and the feet, back of the head. Everything's just going to relax here in this Supta Baddha Konasana. Reclined butterfly pose here. You can feel the opening probably in the groin and the relaxing of those pelvic floor muscles as they're opening. And keep the breath going here. And from here, let's bring the knees together. Lengthen the legs out in front of us and come into our Shavasana here. Arms on either side of the body, opening the palms toward the ceiling. Let the feet fall open naturally. We're going to be here for a couple minutes. Just be and breathe. I'll let you know when to come back to full awareness. Just let any thoughts pass on through without any attachment or any judgment. Just be and breathe. Go ahead now and start to bring a little movement to the fingers and the toes. Maybe make some wrist circles. Rock the feet from side to side, the hips from side to side. Take a big full body stretch here, lifting the arms up over the head and pressing out above the head with the palms, pressing out with the heels of the feet. Feel that length in the body. And then roll over to one side and just pillow your head with your arm and bend the knees into a loose fetal position here. And take one full breath cycle here. Just keeping the eyes closed as long as we can, really focusing inward. Using the hands, go ahead and press yourself up to seated. If you can, keep the eyes closed. That's great. If you have your little blanket or towel, as I do, to support the tailbone, go ahead and grab that and put it in position. And come into your Sukhasana, your easy cross-legged position here, and let the hands rest on the legs. Notice how it feels to sit in this position now versus when you first came to practice. Take notice of the length of the spine. Allow the shoulders to relax. And you might recall your intention for this practice if you set one. Notice the pacing and depth of each inhale and exhale. And notice the pulse, the beating of the heart. Try to relax the muscles of the face. Let's bring the hands together at prayer position at the heart. And take a big full belly inhale so we can chant Om on the exhale. Bring the thumbs to rest up on the forehead. May we have peace in our thoughts. Thumbs at the lips. May we have peace in our words. Thumbs at the heart space. May we have peace in our hearts. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. And I bow as I say Namaste. Thank you so much for being here to practice with me today. If you would like to know when we have new practices that post, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell for notifications when a new practice is posted. I also would be happy to answer any questions that you have about the practice, or if you have any comments that you'd like to share, please put them in the comments below. And again, thank you for being here. I hope this practice has brought some peace and tranquility into your day, and that you can now take that with you wherever you go and bring it into the space, all the spaces that you enter. Until we practice together again, Namaste.